President Obama is once again attempting to shut down Guantanamo Bay, the Gitmo facility. And once again, he's receiving stiff resistance from the Republicans. I'm going to play you a clip which shows an interview with Mark Sanford, and I'm going to come back with my commentary.
Several possible transfer sites here on U.S. soil, including federal prisons in states like South Carolina, the site of the upcoming Democratic primary on Saturday. Joining me now, the Republican representative from South Carolina's 1st Congressional District, the former governor of the state, Congressman Mark Sanford, is with us. Congressman, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
Let me start by playing a little bit of sound from earlier today. This is President Obama talking about his plan and saying that it was bipartisan, at least at one time.
This was not just my opinion. This was not some radical far-left view. There was a bipartisan support to close it. My predecessor, President Bush, to his credit, said he wanted to close it. It was one of the few things that I and my Republican opponent, Senator John McCain, agreed on.
Congressman, you oppose this plan now. Did you oppose the idea then?
I've always opposed it. What's interesting, he references John McCain just a moment ago, but John McCain just came out with a condemning statement with regard to the president's plans. I think that the president in this instance is mixing apples and oranges. I mean, I think that there has been a long time consensus that we need to re-examine this notion of indefinite detention. Is that consistent with American values and what we believe in as a country? What the president's attempting to do, though, is just shift the debate. And not to address indefinite detention, but just to change the geography of indefinite detention, which does nothing about it. So I think that this is an attempt to, in essence, fulfill a campaign pledge here in the 11th hour as he wraps up shop here over the next 10 months.
But the president would say that it's an effort to improve our image around the world. He says we've taken a hit by holding people at Guantanamo Bay. Do you disagree with that?
He doesn't propose not holding them going forward. He proposes moving the geography of where they're indefinitely held. The dynamics of what's in play change not one iota, whether they're housed in Guantanamo Bay or at the Navy brig in Charleston, South Carolina, or at Fort Leavenworth, or a whole host of other possible sites.
See, now that's bullshit, because the reason that they're able to hold them indefinitely is because they are located in Guantanamo Bay, which is not the United States. Once they are transferred onto U.S. soil, they automatically receive rights. Some of these guys have not even had access to attorneys. Once they are on U.S. soil, they automatically would be able to plead their cases in court. These guys have not and will not see a court or a judge as long as they're sitting on Guantanamo Bay. So, you know, this guy he's full of shit.
Well, so are you saying that you don't want any terrorist suspects held on U.S. soil? I mean, Tsarnaev from the Boston Marathon bomber is being held in Florence, Colorado. Is that a bad idea?
That was a one-off.
Yeah, see, and that was a one-off. Anytime they get caught up in bullshit, there's always an excuse. So this guy's a terrorist. He's being held, and he's a one-off. So how come the rest of those guys can't be one-offs? That bullshit doesn't fly.
It's been well documented now. There weren't particularly great ties between what they did. They were certainly inspired, but they weren't part of a larger network.
Since when is terrorism not terrorism? Inspired, participant, planner, etc. Terrorism is terrorism, and when you get convicted of terrorism, you face the same judgment.
That's been fairly well documented. And so what you have in Guantanamo Bay are folks that were in the middle of a very vast network of terrorism around the world. They were perpetrators, organizers. They weren't sort of hitmen, if you want to call it. They were very organizers. And the idea of bringing those organizers, some of the highest value targets, if you will, in the world of terrorism, to the domestic shores of the United States, to me, makes no sense. And that's a bipartisan accord. That's why it's now passed 3 different times. It passed in the bill in 13, 14, and 15 in terms of the National Defense Reauthorization Act. It passed again in the omnibus bill. All those bills were signed off on and voted by Republicans and Democrats alike, and the president himself signed those pieces of law, pieces of legislation into law. So the president proposing breaking his own law, the laws that have his very signature on it, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 different times, he said, I agree, and now he wants to break what he has agreed to.
Now, I bet you these motherfuckers would throw a hissy fit if Obama went to them and said, either we take them and jail them here or I'm going to release them. They would go fucking crazy over that. But again, these guys are being disingenuous. Remember, what the hell are we even doing over there? They wouldn't have come after us if we weren't over in their countries fucking around with them and siding with the guys that were killing their people. So we needed to let them settle their own fucking problems without us sticking our noses in it. Remember, any type of colonial power has always failed. Great Britain failed when they had to deal with us, and we failed when we went into Indochina. We got our asses kicked over there in Korea and in Vietnam. And now, we're bogged down in the fucking, 2 fucking wars that we definitely are not going to win behind these neocons with their bullshit.
Congressman, let me pivot, if I can, to the election, since we're sitting here in Nevada and the caucuses tonight. You're a supporter of Ted Cruz. And let me ask you, last night I was at a Trump event, and several people said to me that their perception of Ted Cruz is that he's a liar. And another person said to me that he's a foreigner. He's not even an American. How do you combat that?
Watch this one. Ted Cruz is a fucking Canadian, and he definitely is a liar. And watch Mark Sanford, who was a liar himself, because he was the one that fucked around on his wife and took off with some Brazilian bimbo for a couple of weeks, then came back and did a Maya Copa, but he divorced his wife, who ran against him, and she beat him in an election. But he did marry the Brazilian bimbo. And then the people from South Carolina with their stupid asses, they turned around and reelected this fuck.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to try and figure out what different folks are saying out in Nevada. It's a long way from South Carolina.
Yeah, right.
But what I'd say is this. I made my 11th hour endorsement because I thought it was important to go on record saying that I was going to support somebody, in my case, other than Donald Trump. I've grown very, very concerned with both the tone and the tenor of what Trump has been saying. This idea of saying that a former president was a co-conspirator in 9/11, to me, is crazy. Some of the other things that he said really drags down the debate, and I think it's harmful to being able to forge new solutions in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, so you rather side with the guy that pulls fucking dirty tricks, lies his ass off, and he's probably not even a real U.S. citizen. Just that he's a Tea Party guy, and you are an undercover Tea Party guy, as quiet as it's kept.
So at this point, are you concerned that Donald Trump may have it locked up, though, sir, that he may be able to take it all the way?
I am. The reason I've done the Cruz thing is it's my view that the only way to stop Donald Trump is by splitting the outsider vote. At the end of the day, I've spent a lot of time with grassroots. I've been always anti-establishment myself. I don't think that you're going to be able to stop an outsider campaign in this kind of election cycle with anybody who's perceived to be insider. So you can have all the coalescing that you want around a sort of mainstay candidate, but at the end of the day, I think the outsider takes it, and right now that looks to be Donald Trump.
Now, did you hear what he said? He said the only way to stop Donald Trump is to split the outsider vote. So that means that you need to split the vote up between Donald Trump and quote-unquote Ted Cruz. If you split that vote, that leaves an opening for Marco Rubio to take this thing. So really, where is he coming from? Is he trying to get Cruz elected? Is he trying to stop Trump, or is he trying to get Rubio elected? What he's saying isn't making a whole hell of a lot of sense as far as I can see.
Congressman Mark Sanford, good to speak with you. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Anyway, the majority of really where I was going was on the closing of the Gitmo thing. This Mark Sanford piece on Trump and Cruz is just a little bonus.